species must surely be unnatural. So, with a fresh breeze and a hill or a mountain between us, I must wish them Godspeed, and try to pray and sing with Burns, "It's coming yet, for all that, that man to man, the world o'er, shall brothers be, for all that." How the day passed I hardly know. By the map I have come only about 10 or 12 miles, though the sun is already low in the west, showing how long I must have lingered, observing, sketching, taking notes among the glaciated rocks and moraines and alpine flower beds. At sundown the sombre crags and peaks were inspired with the ineffable beauty of the alpenglow, and a solemn, awful stillness hushed everything in the landscape. Then I crept into a hollow by the side of a small lake near the head of the canyon, smoothed a sheltered spot, and gathered a few pine tassels for a bed. After the short twilight began to fade, I kindled a sunny fire, made a tin cupful of tea, and lay down to watch the stars. Soon the night wind began to flow from the snowy peaks overhead. At first only a gentle breathing, then, gaining strength, in less than an hour rumbled in massive volume, something like a boisterous stream in a boulder-choked channel, roaring and moaning down the canyon, as if the work it had to do was tremendously important and fateful. And mingled with these storm tones were those of the waterfalls on the north side of the canyon, now sounding distinctly, now smothered by the heavier cataracts of air, making a glorious psalm of savage wildness. My fire squirmed and struggled as if ill at ease, for though in a sheltered nook, detached masses of icy wind often fell like icebergs on top of it, scattering sparks and coals, so that I had to keep well back to avoid being burned. But the big resiny roots and knots of the dwarf pine could neither be beaten out nor blown away, and the flames, now rushing up in long lances, now flattened and twisted on the rocky ground, roared as if trying to tell the storm stories of the trees they belonged to, as the light given out was telling the story of the sunshine they had gathered in centuries of summers. The stars shone clear in the strip of sky between the huge dark cliffs, and as I lay recalling the lessons of the day, suddenly the full moon looked down over the canyon wall, her face apparently filled with eager concern, which had a startling effect, as if she had left her place in the sky and had come down to gaze on me alone, like a person entering one's bedroom. It was hard to realize that she was in her place in the sky, and was looking abroad on half the globe, land and sea, mountains, plains, lakes, rivers, oceans, ships, cities with their myriads of inhabitants, sleeping and waking, sick and well. No, she seemed to be just on the rim of Bloody Canyon, and looking only at me. This was indeed getting near to nature. I remember watching the harvest moon rising above the oak trees in Wisconsin, apparently as big as a cartwheel, and not farther than half a mile distant. With these exceptions I might say I never before had seen the moon, and this night she seemed so full of life and so near. The effect was marvellously impressive, and made me forget the Indians, the great black rocks above me, and the wild uproar of the winds and the waters making their way down the huge jagged gorge. Of course I slept but little, and gladly welcomed the dawn over the Mono Desert. By the time I had made a cupful of tea, the sunbeams were pouring through the canyon, and I set forth, gazing eagerly at the tremendous walls of red slates, savagely hacked and scarred, and apparently ready to fall in avalanches great enough to choke the pass and fill up the chain of lakelets. But soon its beauties came to view, and I bounded lightly from rock to rock, admiring the polished bosses shining in the slant sunshine with glorious effect in the general roughness of moraines and avalanche taluses, even toward the head of the canyon near the highest fountains of the ice. Here, too, are most of the lowly plant people seen yesterday on the other side of the divide now opening their beautiful eyes. None could fail to glory in nature's tender care for them in so wild a place. The little ouzel is flitting from rock to rock along the rapidly swirling canyon creek, diving for breakfast in icy pools, and merrily singing as if the huge, rugged, avalanche-swept gorge was the most delightful of all its mountain homes. Besides a high fall on the north wall of the canyon, apparently coming direct from the sky, there are many narrow cascades, bright silvery ribbons zigzagging down the red cliffs, tracing the diagonal cleavage joints of the metamorphic slates, now contracted and out of sight, now leaping from ledge to ledge in filmy sheets through which the sunbeams sift, and on the main canyon creek, to which all these are tributary, is a series of small falls, cascades and rapids, extending all the way down to the foot of the canyon, interrupted only by the lakes in which the tossed and beaten waters rest. One of the finest of the cascades is outspread on the face of a precipice, its waters separated into ribbon-like strips and woven into diamond-like pattern by tracing the cleavage joints of the rocks, while tufts of bryanthus, grass, sedge, saxifrage form beautiful fringes. Who could imagine beauty so fine in so savage a place? Gardens are blooming in all sorts of nooks and hollows. At the head, alpine eriogonum, erigeron, saxifrage, gentians, cowania, bush primula. In the middle region, larkspur, columbine, orthocarpus, castilia, harebell, epilobium, violets, mints, yarrow. Near the foot, sunflowers, lilies, briar rose, iris, lonicera, clematis. One of the smallest of the cascades, which I name Bower Cascade, is in the lower region of the pass, where the vegetation is snowy and luxuriant. Wild rose and dogwood form dense masses overarching the stream, and out of this bower the creek, grown strong with many indashing tributaries, leaps forth into the light and descends in a fluted curve thick sown with crisp flashing spray. At the foot of the canyon there is a lake formed in part at least by the damming of the stream by a terminal moraine. The three other lakes in the canyon are in basins eroded from the solid rock, where the pressure of the glacier was greatest, and the most resisting portions of the basin rims are beautifully, tellingly polished. Below Moraine Lake, at the foot of the canyon, there are several old lake basins lying between the large lateral moraines which extend out into the desert. These basins are now completely filled up by the material carried in by the streams, and changed to dry sandy flats, covered mostly by grass and artemisia and sun-loving flowers. All these lower lake basins were evidently formed by terminal moraine dams, deposited where the receding glacier had lingered during short periods of less waste, or greater snowfall, or both. Looking up the canyon from the warm sunny edge of the monoplane, my morning ramble seems a dream, so great is the change in the vegetation and climate. The lilies on the bank of Moraine Lake are higher than my head, and the sunshine is hot enough for palms. Yet the snow round the Arctic gardens at the summit of the pass is plainly visible, only about 4 miles away, and between lie specimen zones of all the principal